Let's go. We should be live. Okay, let's refresh. Let's make sure.
Hey, what's up, my YouTube friends?
Whoa,
Thanks for
that's
joining
so
me.
loud.
We're jumping in.
I hate the autoplay. So it's going to be about 18 seconds till we get going here. There it is. Boom. We're live. We are live. We are live on YouTube. All right. It has been a long time since I have streamed. So I'm a little rusty, a little nervous probably, but we're just going to get through it. So, this is a topic I've wanted to talk about for a long time. It's a new year, so I want to start making some content on here. I want to get into it, and I keep trying to make these videos, and it sucks because I try to make it perfect. I'm like, you know what? Let's just go live. Let's just do it live, and maybe something will come out of it, and then if I got to edit it down and make some short snippets and whatnot. Anyway, you don't care about that. The question that I have for you, the topic that's been on my mind a lot: should designers code? Should designers code? It is a question that you will find all over Twitter. You'll read articles on Medium. I've written about it a little bit. Should designers code? Designers in this case, I think we're talking about web designers, native app designers, product designers, UX designers, etc. These designers spend a lot of time in tools like Figma, Sketch, Adobe XD, if that's still around. Man, there's a whole topic there about Adobe and Figma. I'd love to talk about that, but that's neither here nor there. Should designers code? And just, I guess the short answer is, in my opinion, yes. Certain designers for sure. All designers, probably not. But there are a lot of designers that I feel like could greatly benefit from learning a little bit, at least a little bit of code. And we'll kind of dissect what code is. It's kind of I don't know. Code means a lot of things to a lot of different people. There's code, there's programming, there's logic, there's, development. What are all these? What does all this stuff mean? But I'm talking about specifically, when I'm talking about designers, I mean people who spend most of their day in Figma, in Sketch, in XD, or Photoshop or Illustrator, and you make interfaces, you make UI, like I said, for the web. You're a product designer, right? You're a UX designer, you're a UI designer. Should you learn to code? So let's again, I want to talk about code and what code is. Let's go over here to the desktop. This is just my YouTube page. We can close this stuff out. We don't need that. What do I want to do? Topic of the day: should designers, DESIGNERS, should designers code? That's the topic of today. Let's go to the chat GPT and let's just ask. Let's define code. What is code? What is code? What is code? Let's make it big so you guys can see this. What does that look like? Yeah. Code is a set of instructions written in a programming language which tells a computer how to perform a specific task. It's like a recipe that the computer follows to execute programs and applications. Okay, yeah. That's code. In my mind, let's ask this question. What is the difference between code and programming? Why did that not send? Programming. Send. Code refers to the actual text written in a programming language. It's the instructions. Programming, on the other hand, is the process of designing, writing, testing, maintaining this code. It's the broader activity that involves problem solving and thinking logically to make the code work as intended. Okay, so should designers program? Maybe to degree. Maybe a little bit. How's the audio? How's my audio? Okay. But to me, code is when I think of code, I think of syntax. What is syntax? Why is the return button not sending? Okay, syntax in programming is the set of rules that defines combinations of symbols that are considered to be correctly structured programs in that language. Yeah, this is it right here. It's like grammar in a language, determining how you can arrange words and punctuation. In coding, it's about how you arrange code, symbols, and keywords to create a valid program. So I think one of the biggest aspects of this topic, should designers code, is should designers learn this syntax in order to, I don't know, be productive in code, to be able to, contribute to the production code, the development code, the repo, or should they kind of stay in their lane, in their tooling, and just kind of live over there in Figma, in Sketch, and XD, etc. So let's go back to the main camera here. So like when I think in a lot of design teams, I certainly used to do this a lot. I don't anymore, and we're going to talk about that. But so I think there's a lot of teams where, I mean, just design and code in general, right? There's this, you've got design, designers, they spend their time over here in Figma, XD. They're creating assets, they're creating files in their own, they're just in their own silo. And then there's my dog. Then you've got developers, you kind of hand those Figma files off, and Figma's introduced, tools like developer mode, and it helps, kind of create a better handoff between design and development. And that's great. But what if design and development kind of happened in tandem in the same medium, in the same, I don't know, in the same repo? Because one of the things that happens, and I know I've done this in previous jobs, where design teams will spend all this time and effort, and we build out these massive design files where we create almost every single screen, sometimes like many screens, just to indicate a flow, and we make these prototypes, and it makes it feel like you can click through that. And it's powerful. In Figma, to their credit, they've introduced a lot of stuff that that makes that process easier and more manageable. And I would argue that they've introduced, coding. They've introduced variables, things like that. They've introduced even logic now. They've introduced that to make that job easier for designers. But the question is, like, that still all lives outside of the repo, out of I always say you can't ship a Figma file. You can't ship a Figma file to production. Now there are tools, and I'm sure there's a future where, especially with AI, gosh, it's a whole other topic. Going from Figma to a live website, it's not, it's reasonable. You can have code generated from Figma and other tools. Anyway, the point is, should designers code? I think yes. I think if you are the type of designer who, if you just find yourself naming files, not naming files, if you find yourself naming all of your layers and being very articulate about your naming, and you use variables, and you're just very specific, and you're organizing all your frames and all that stuff. You do all that in Figma or Sketch, you're the type of designer that I'm talking to, who I believe should give it a go. It's 2024. Let's do something new. Let's learn how to code. Okay, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay. Let's see. Where is let's go back to the desktop here. Where is my... yeah, okay, so we kind of talked about some of this stuff. Okay, so let me just kind of... I got a little bit of a gripe. I maybe started to allude to this a little bit. One thing I wish, Figma, again, it's an amazing tool. I used to spend a lot of time in Figma. I really wish Figma was more of an interface, a GUI, a graphical user interface for code. It's maybe it's a subtle difference, but there are. Let's look this up. There is a React IDE GUI. There's an app. Codex, is this it? Visual IDE for React. I wish Figma was more like this. Figma could be this. So what I mean is like, let's see if we can find some video demos. Maybe. No. Basically, when you're in Figma, you've got your. Let's just open up Figma here. Let's just play around here for 2 minutes in Figma. I'm gonna create a frame, right? Well, let's first. All right, this is our browser window. We'll just say this is this is a web project, right? So this is our browser window. Let's give it a stroke so we can kind of see it. We'll make it a little bit lighter just so it's kind of pretty. Maybe give it a little bit of a brown, probably too much. Something like that. It's got a white background because that's what browsers have default. Make that a little bit lighter. Okay. Right, this is our browser window. Where am I getting at? What am I getting at? I'm going to draw a frame in here. I'm going to draw navigation. This thing goes all the way across the top. I'm going to give it a little color. This is not a design tutorial. Make sure that's in the frame. Okay, so we're going to name this browser. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, I did that wrong. Browser. This is the browser. We're going to give this a 4-point radius. This is going to be a background of white with a stroke. We are going to make this way lighter, make it subtle. Browser. Okay, there we go. Browser clip content. Okay. So then you're gonna start working on your web project. I'm like, okay, we're gonna put a little header up here. We're gonna put some navigation in there, right? We're gonna give it, some color. That's a terrible color. I don't know. Whatever. We're not. It's whatever. Whatever. What am I getting at here? I'm losing focus. Should designers code? Yeah. So you're in here all day. You're creating boxes. We're going to put these. And you're using auto layout. You're coming over here. You're centering this. And you're setting this all up. You're saying, maybe all these are card, right? And maybe a card has whatever. You're going to create components. You're going to have images. You're going to have text. And you're going to create this whole design system, right? And that's all going to live inside Figma. And you're going to have everything pretty. You're going to have variables. You're going to have all your color tokens. And you're going to do all that in Figma. And that doesn't exist anywhere but inside Figma. You can't ship that, right? I think that's a problem. Now, I would argue that, using Figma as a sketching tool, 100%, I think that's great. I think you can, very quickly, a really talented designer, you can come in here and you can explore ideas faster in Figma, dragging things around, exploring. You can do that a lot faster in Figma. And I think that's what Figma should be for. But when we start creating complete design systems, design libraries, when we start doing all this stuff in Figma, yeah, I mean, you can make arguments, and you can make arguments that like a big team, you keep all these, you keep a design system inside Figma, and you need to crank out a new layout for a page. You can create these mockups very quick if that's all maintained. Yes, I'm not saying that no one should ever do this, but you just have to consider that when you put all this time and effort in and keep all this stuff in Figma, what if all of this effort that you did in your Figma files, I mean, this is just a terrible example. I wish I had a big file I could pull up. I could, but I don't want to look for it right now. If all that time was actually maintaining a design system in code, right? That to me would be awesome. And that's where I think Figma is Figma's so awesome because they pioneered, designing. Well, first of all, there is an app, and this is the Figma app, but it's in the browser. You can have multiple people inside a file at the same time drawing in the canvas. They pioneered that. I mean, it's like Google. If you know Figma, you know that Figma is an incredible tool. But I wish the underlying output, or at least in some capacity, or I wish there was maybe it's not Figma. I wish there was a tool for designers to have this style of GUI interface, adding strokes, drop shadows, sizing things, laying things out, in this auto layout, right? I can control the spacing, right? You can do all this stuff, you obviously do this all in code, but why have two versions of it? That's why I think it's so important for certain designers, I think a lot of designers, to learn how to do this in code so that, yes, Figma becomes the place where you sketch out ideas, you get stuff to a point where you're happy with it, you've got buy-in, but start making a real version in code, especially on the web. I mean, you can what am I trying to say? You can ship things on the web super easy, get it into clients' hands, get it onto, different platforms, phones, tablets, desktops, Macs, PCs, all different browsers, all that stuff. You can do that so easy on the web. But yeah, I just get frustrated because I think a lot of time is put into making these, pixel perfect designs. Where'd my chat go? Do I have chat up here? There's no one in here. There's probably no one watching this right now. Let's just see. Do I have anyone watching? On the web. One watching now. That's me. Let's see. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. What do I want to talk about here? Okay, so I've done a poor job of telling you why I feel like designers should code. And I'm going to have to come back to this video because, again, I'm super rusty. I have not prepared for this. But it is something that I think there's a good number of designers out there who would benefit from learning how to code. And it's so easy. I want to go back to the conversation about what is code. I'm not talking about should designers program. Some should. I think learning how to program is a great skill, whether you're a designer or anybody. It's a great, kind of mental framework on, how to tackle problems. But when it comes to designers, learning a little bit of, so if you are designing for the web, learn HTML and CSS at the very minimum. We got to talk about AI. I mean, AI obviously is going to have a huge impact on design and designers and developers. It already has. I use AI almost every day. And I think that kind of makes it the best time in the world to learn this stuff, because you have a tutor right next to you all the time where you can get help. But I think you can't just, at least not right now. Maybe there's a future where you can rely on it, but you can't rely on AI to do everything perfectly for you. I think you're going to run into issues where you're going to have AI write you're going to upload, your Figma file or a screenshot of your Figma file, and it's going to output some code, and you're like, oh, this is great. And you're going to be like, but it doesn't work exactly like I thought it would. Because all you did in Figma was, you created a static picture to upload, and it made a lot of assumptions on what you meant by that. And I mean, really, that's kind of what developers do when you hand off to a developer and say, hey, make this work. And you might send them like 2 different breakpoints for your web project or your web page. Okay, what does it look like the infinite number of sizes that a browser window can be. And native, this goes for native apps too. And I think I would love to explore, in some ways I think native kind of jumped ahead a little bit, especially with like Xcode, what Xcode and Apple's doing with Swift UI. It's a topic I've written a little bit about and I've played around with a little bit, but I don't do a lot for native these days. I do mostly front-end design and development for the web. So that's what I'm going to talk about, is what I know. But I do want to explain. But the point I want to get to with Xcode, Xcode has a great GUI to generate layouts for, let's just look up Xcode Swift UI GUI. I don't know what that. I mean, it's like maybe they'll have pictures in their dev. Show me the interface. Yeah, okay. So this is, I mean, what they've done with Swift UI. This is kind of like HTML. It's a markup. It's if you're a designer and you don't know this stuff, like, okay, fine. We're gonna learn some of this stuff. But there's you've got a code editor. You've got an output, like what you're creating. What does it look like? And then they're not showing here. I don't want to launch it because it's a big app and it takes a long time. What is the GUI? What's the GUI look like? No. Let's go to images. Yeah, maybe right here. Right? Whoa, that scrolls really fast. That's weird. But yeah, it's kind of built for designers, right? It's like, it's a code editor here on the left, but it's got, it's very approachable because you've got drop downs and you got alignment and you've got, padding and all that kind of stuff that you have in something like Figma. So I wish Figma was more like this, where instead of your layers palette, it's like a text editor. It's your code. I wish that was the underlying structure. Now, there are tons of challenges with that. I've thought about this a lot. I mean, it's easy just to say like, oh, I wish Figma did this. But sorry, looking at some tags. Where was I? I should just turn that off. So Figma, I wish it was more like this. It's not. So I want to talk about I've thought about how would I teach someone to get into coding for the web. We're just going to talk about the web for today. So if you're a native designer, it still might be helpful. But I want to talk about, let's just start playing around with learning how to code. Is this any good? Am I creating anything of value here? Okay. Sorry, I also wanted to bring this up because I think there's some interesting content in here. Let's close all this out. Boom, 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 boom. Oh yeah, I was looking at this. So config 2023 just this year. So Dylan Field, man, I think I already mentioned that, but the whole Adobe Figma thing, what a crazy thing. So early this year, this was yes, I guess 6 months ago, but Figma introduced a lot of really powerful tools, and I kind of love it and hate it. I love it because it gives designers the ability to really speed up how quickly they can create prototypes and interactive stuff like that. But like, all right, let's just look at this for a second. We've got designers in Figma. Excuse me, sorry about that. We've got designers inside Figma creating all these variables. What is a variable? Okay, if I don't know how basic to go on this stuff. Variables, it's an abstraction, if that makes sense. So you're just giving a value and a name. You're just tying those two things together, so you can, think of it later and not have to think about, oh wait, what was the value? Oh, it's spacing small, spacing medium, spacing large. Right? So variables can represent anything, right? It could be like we got here. We got text, we've got numbers, we've got text or strings, we've got colors. So we've got all this stuff in Figma. It's like, if you're doing this, if you're putting all this time into these kind of assets, at least consider learning how to code. You're already there. You're so close. Okay. I'd love to hear. I don't know. Tell me I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, that was a long-winded thing to say that I really like the idea. I have not played with this. Maybe I'll do a video of that. Playing with this. Now this is based on React. So obviously in Figma you can create interfaces for anything. I mean, you don't have to create interfaces. I use it all the time for, I just did a bunch of work on my house, and I use it for like figuring out I redid our front entryway and our stairs, and I was figuring out like dimensions and heights and widths and stuff for, tearing down wall, like electrical. I've got my electrical panel in a Figma file, and I can try to reference like where different outlets and all that. I use it for all kinds of stuff, not for just design. But if you are designing in Figma like UIs, that could be for native, that could be for desktop or web. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not platform specific. So that's awesome about Figma. Now this, again, I don't know if you can tell by just these little screenshots here, but this is, okay, build functional applications, develop components in isolation. So you're doing all of this real-time rendering. You're rendering actual code, right? You've got your little layers palette. If I bump this up, can you see it? Yeah. So you're actually interacting with the repo, but these tools, they're more targeted to designers. So it has a GUI that designers are comfortable with, and it's more approachable. But it's very specific. It's specific for React. React is a framework to build. That's a complicated thing. I'm not going to try to describe React. But it's a specific part. It's a specific framework for developing for the web, and there are tons of different frameworks just for the web. And then there's Swift UI for Apple and all their products. And then there's I'm rusty on this. What is all the native stuff? So like for Google, they have what was company I used to work for. They did a lot of it. Starts with Flutter. Flutter. It's a framework for building native apps, sort of native apps. And then what is it? Kotlin. I don't remember Kotlin. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I wish there was something more generic than just React, because I don't use I use React a little bit, but not. It's I actually use it kind of a lot lately, and I don't love it. But anyway, I want to dig in. I want to start talking about how to get started designing in code. Getting designers to code. I wish I could make this sticky. No one's watching this, so it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. I don't even know. Like, would I even know if someone popped in here? Analytics. Whoa, I probably shouldn't have that open. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just showed you secret passwords. Anyway, we'll deal with that later. Okay, so if you don't know, this is CodePen. If you just go to CodePen, so I'm logged in, so what does it look like? So if you go to CodePen, I think this is a great place for designers to start learning how to code. And I'm gonna go down a path, and I'll be curious if I can get some feedback on this. This may not be the best, because I'm not gonna go way down in the weeds. When I learned how to program, how to design, I kept going like, ooh, I need to learn a little bit lower. I kept digging, and I got down to like really fundamental, just understanding how computers work, switches, on and off state, binary, and then I kind of build up from there. And I am not a great programmer by any means, but I'm not starting there. I'm going to start where I feel like a good place for a designer who wants to start designing in code. I want to start at a place that I think will get you going. And then from there, if you feel like, oh, I want to learn more about how this actually all works, there will be that. But gosh, and honestly, I don't use CodePen a lot, so there's probably a lot of cool stuff in here. Anyway, let's go. So if I just go, where do I go? CodePen. I'm not pro anymore. I have been pen. I want a pen. Okay, so I've got a. This is kind of like a. I mean, I don't want to make these over generalized comparisons, but like, okay, just imagine this is like a Figma file, right? So you got HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We're not gonna talk about JavaScript anytime soon. I want to talk about HTML and CSS. I'm sure you've heard these things. Obviously, if you're in Figma, you know that you can get to, gosh, I don't even know where it is anymore. Is it here? Developer mode, right? You get some, you get these little snippets of code, of CSS. I think it can be helpful. We'll probably reference that kind of stuff. I guess it's beta still. Okay. That's kind of cool. Okay, so they can't really like break it. That's kind of cool. Dev resources. Okay. Yeah, Storybook, GitHub, Jira. You've probably heard of those things. Yeah, so this is like super basic. This is, if you've been designing for a long time, you know how to do a little bit of code here and there. You took some HTML classes. Like, this is maybe not for you. It's for someone who's, I don't know. I'm just going to go through and we're going to talk about the very first thing, I think, to get you started, to be able to put little layouts like this together. I know we don't have any pictures or any text in here, which is a big part. Maybe we'll play with that a little bit. But today we're going to talk about the div. We're going to talk about div and, okay, HTML, we're going to call it code because it's syntax, but it's not really code. It's not programming. It's a markup language, hypertext markup language. That just means that it's like, maybe you've heard of Markdown. Markdown and HTML, they're kind of similar. That there's a little syntax that you kind of wrap your text in your images and all that, so that it has a structure that you can then do other things with. I don't know. Let's just see. Let's just go back to ChatGPT. What is HTML? Man, I wish, I don't know what happened. Why is it not? Okay, what is HTML? ChatGPT's a little slow right now. What's going on? Yeah, I mean, it's hypertext markup language. That's what it stands for. But it's a language. It's not really a language. I mean, there's no, let's see. Here we go. It's a markup language used to create in structure. So you add structure to your web pages. It uses tags to define elements like headings, paragraph, links, images, and more. HTML is the backbone of any web page, providing basic structure before it's styled with CSS or made interactive with JavaScript. Yeah. I mean, that's almost everyone probably knows this. Anyone that be watching this video, you know this, right? But it's like, it can, even just HTML can be a little bit like, ooh, HTML. How do I get started? Okay, so we're going to talk about the div. Well, even before that, let's just do it. So here we are. We're in CodePen. I'm going to type in div, and then I'm going to hit tab, and it's going to autocomplete. So, I mean, one of the great things about working in a text editor, a text editor, you're going to spend more time on a keyboard than in your mouse. And there's a certain level of proficiency that you get. I'm not I'm not amazing at it, but because I still use the mouse quite a bit. But you'll find that you can do things really fast in a text editor that you can't do in Figma. Now, Figma, I mean, there's a lot of really cool things. Like, if you're the type of person that, let's see, I probably forget all these things, but like, so, like, let's say I've got like tons of layers, and I've got like, let's duplicate this and this and this, and I've got all this stuff open. Like, one of the things I used all the time, I would hit Command P, and then I would say collapse layers, and I would do little shortcuts like that, right? You learn how to do shortcuts. Well, the same stuff exists in text editors. A really popular one is Visual Studio Code. That's what I use for my day-to-day. But here we are. We are in CodePen. We've got a div. These are called HTML elements. This is one element. This is the equivalent. Let's get rid of all this crap I just created here. And I guess what I want to do here is I want to create the best I can. I want to just create like some comparisons between Figma and code in a text editor. So a div is, to me, it's the closest comparison would be a frame, not a rectangle, but a frame, right? If I come in here and I hit F and I get to the frame tool and I just click, this frame has like some defaults. It has a white background and it's 100 by 100, and it just snapped wherever I click. That's the center of that default frame. Now I can also go over here and I can drag a frame out to any size, right? So a key difference between a div and HTML, there's not really a whole lot of defaults, right? Because you can't even see it. This is, so if I type in between here, if I type in content, right? This is my content, and let's make some little lines. Okay, so like there's not really any default. There's not there's no background color. There is one thing that we'll get to maybe later. This div, it doesn't necessarily have any height, but it's always going to be, again, this is, we're going to talk about like hierarchy. So like there is no parent here. I mean, there kind of is, but we're not going to talk about that yet. This div is all the way across. Okay, we're going to jump a little bit ahead here. We're going to talk about CSS, but we're going to talk about CSS. I don't want to get too much into the weeds of CSS and what CSS is, because what I want to talk about is something called Tailwind. Gosh, I'm all over the place. This is so not rehearsed. I apologize. But I want to add, You've heard of Tailwind, right? Everyone's heard of Tailwind. I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to go to CSS, and I'm going to go down here to the add external style sheets, and I'm going to just search, because they have it as CodePen has it as a preset, Tailwind CSS. Okay, they describe it as Tailwind is a utility-first CSS framework for rapidly building custom user interfaces. That's true. That is all true. And there's a lot to learn about Tailwind. 2.2. Okay, so that's interesting. Let's just go to tailwindcss.com, because they're on 3, and there's some reasons why. Right? What version are we on here? We're on like 3.2, 3.4. Why is that not going? 3.4 is the latest, which is fine. Doesn't matter. Tailwind, man, I don't want to go too far ahead. Anyway, so this is an element, a div, right? This is a frame, and like this right here has a background. Let's add a stroke, right? Let's pull this out. Like these are frames. This is kind of the same thing. All right. So if we want to style a frame here, we click these little GUIs. If we want to style a frame in HTML, we're gonna do it. There's a couple ways. We're gonna do it with CSS classes. Class equals. All right. So again, this is syntax. Div. There's a lot of different things. We're only gonna talk about divs today. I've got a class, and I'm gonna give it background red 500. Maybe you've seen this before, right? So okay. So you couldn't tell that this div went all the way across because there was no default. There was no default like background color. But now that I add a background red 500, and we'll get into that a little bit with Tailwind. But now you can kind of see, okay, all right, that goes all the way across. And if I duplicate this, it's going to create another one, right? Now I'm going to do something else. I'm going to create a new div. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to, so now I've got this div, I've got this div, these both have a background of red, and then I've got a parent div. So it's like, you can nest frames, right? So this, now auto layout frames, a little different in Figma, but like, this doesn't have to be an auto layout. We can remove that for now. And it's like a frame, and these really could be frames. I forget how you make these frames. Can you turn those into frames? Again, I don't use Figma anymore. So in here, I can create another frame, and I think a lot of people will just use frames instead of rectangles, because frames have all the same characteristics. That. Excuse me. I want this frame to be inside this frame, right? So these are just divs. This is basically what I did, right? So it's like, now the sizing is different. We'll get to that. But this is just a frame inside a frame. That's what I did here. A frame inside another frame. Now, I want to use another class. I don't know what all autocomplete I can do here in CodePen, but I'm going to give another class of, let's do flex, and watch what happens. Okay, that just changed the layout quite a bit. These are no longer going all the way across. Let's give this a background of green 500. This is going to be beautiful. Okay, so this is now going all the way across, but the children are only going boom and boom. What happens if I do gap 4? So now if I create another one of these, Whoops, what had just happened? I'm going to create another one, so I just copied and pasted it. So these are going to always be for, this is the same as, gosh, this is getting ugly here. So I've got frame, let's just call this parent, and we'll call this, we'll call this like container, right? And we're going to call this card. And let's just go ahead and create just a really simple little design here. Again, I like subtle little, we don't want to make those really black, really dark. So we'll go here. We'll go 1. That's fine. Give it a little corner radius, right? Okay, that's nice. There's our card. And now let's create 3 cards. Okay, they're all kind of stacked on top of each other. So again, like, there's defaults in here. But let's make this an auto layout. That's kind of what, oh yeah. Now see, it made those all absolute, which we don't want. Okay. Look, I'm not here to teach you how to use Figma. And we'll just kind of do the same thing. So we're going to go, let's get the fill. We're going to make, what was it? Green. It was like a green color. Right, green 500, I don't know, somewhere in there. And then let's not make it so ugly. We'll use better colors. Whatever. Okay. So there's our background for our container. And we've got 3 cards in there. And they're all, 8. We can adjust this, right? This is like, and you've got the layout, right? So layout going horizontal. You can do it this way. Boom, boom, right? You can do the same thing. So this is flex. With a gap of 4, that's like flex. Now flex has a default, so I could say flex row, and this will stay the same because it's flex row. That's this. I can say flex column, and watch this. Flex, man, see, I have, this is embarrassing. Let's close that out. We're not talking about that. Go away. See, I have all these autocompletes in my text editor, so I kind of forget what they are. Flex, wrap, flex, direction, flex. Oh, it's just COL. Yeah, duh. Flex, COL. Again, syntax, right? This is the thing that's flex, the syntax is what's so tricky, and you have to learn some syntax. But I'm telling you, once you kind of get a basic, you can do a lot with it. Okay, so we're saying flex column. Now all of a sudden, whoa, crazy. Okay, it's weird. Now these are full width. Okay, let's go ahead and watch this. So we're going here. Let's just go ahead and get. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead here. Let's give it a background of like slate, maybe like 200. So we go slate 200, and we'll say, see what I'm doing here? This is multi-cursor. So I'm going to change all these at the same time. Background slate. What isn't that slate? I don't have slate. Background gray 500, and let's go like 300. See how I'm doing all that at the same time? That's multi-cursor. That's multi-cursor. Slate is not. Is that not in the defaults? Colors. Background colors. Background colors. We don't want the filters. Background colors. Slate. Why is slate not popping up? Maybe that's weird. Background slate 200 should be there. We'll just do gray because I know gray's there, and then maybe we'll make these maybe 400. So a little bit darker. Okay, so gap is the space in between, and then padding is we'll do the same thing. So these values, 4 and 4, be the same. So again, I'm only applying it to this parent. So the parent has that spacing, right? Let's get rid of, whoops. Go back to putting these sideways. Now I can do something else here. I can say width full, right? So now width full will say, hey, let's make those all full. But because it's flex, they're only gonna go as full as they can be inside of the flex container. There's a lot here. The point is, it's pretty easy. Yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but there's these little keywords, these little classes that you can apply to just divs, and you can start working on layout, right? So let's what do we want to do here? Let's look at a design in here, something that's already how do I get to the community tab? Yeah, I was looking at some stuff here. Let's just find like a I don't know. Is this helpful? Is this making any sense? Is this making you want to learn how to code, or is this making you want to just say, nah, I'll stick with Figma? Because I'm gonna keep working on it. I'm gonna keep pushing this idea. Because I know a lot of you are doing stuff in Figma that feels a lot like code. I feel like this has mostly just been a rant for me, maybe a practice. What would be a good? I think this is the one I was looking at. Yeah, $24. Okay, I don't want to buy it. I just want to look at it. You know. Okay. Where do we go from here? All I want to know, all I want to say is like, what do I want to say? If you work in code, this is something that can ultimately start to go into the repo for the product you're actually working on. It's moving the ball forward, whereas when you're in Figma, that's an outside. That's you can't ship that. So I would love to, even if it was just designers and developers kind of pair programming, because I mean I think a lot of designers might need a lot of some hand holding, certainly if they're just getting started in this stuff. Look at this. This is an amazing design here, right? Let's just kind of keep working on this a little bit. So I'm going to do another div, right? And what we're going to do here, again, see my text editor is all set up and it does a lot of this stuff for me very quickly. CodePen, I'm a little slow. So I'm going to do another class. And I'm going to say width 32. So what I just did here, okay, this is wow. See, this is where you're gonna be like, man, this is crazy. Why does none of this stuff work here? All right, I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna show you some new. Ooh, I don't think this is gonna work because this is only Tailwind. All right, we won't do that. 1/2. Let's do 1/2. Okay. So basically this width 1/2 is going to take up half the screen. And then the flex still works. So it's going to go width full, but it's full as it can be with its brothers or its sisters or its siblings. And to make this a little easier, maybe when you're just getting started, it might be kind of hard to follow like what's going on here. So we've got this parent class, and we can even do, let's watch this. So we can do padding 4, or maybe I I don't know. Maybe we want to do 8. So this is an outer. Now there's no background color, so you can't maybe see it. You can kind of see the effects of the padding in it. But yeah, let's go to background. Background, gray 100. Right. Okay. So what if we want to make all these cards like a height of 64. Right. Okay. So now maybe we're getting a little better layout here. And then let's give these some padding. So see how we're in these gray 400. So we're in these little cards here. See how the contents just kind of butted right up in there. So we can add some padding. So we can go P4. Or maybe, as we get a little more nested, maybe it's not P4, maybe it's like P2, or maybe it's more, or whatever. We'll just keep it consistent. So P4. So we kind of push that around. So now let's give it, and I should tell you, so like when I'm in this multi-cursor mode, so I'm hitting, I'm on a Mac, so I'm hitting Command, probably Control on a PC, but I'm anywhere I click my mouse as I've got my Control button held down, it's a new cursor, and then you can move those around, make selections all at the same time. It's a little crazy, but once you get used to it, it's freaking awesome. So in here, I'm going to add, gosh, what is it? Gosh, I'm having a brain fart here. Border radius. Border radius. Oh, that's right. Round. Wow. I took the holidays off and I forgot everything. Rounded. Is it rounded? Is that what I said? Rounded. And then you just give it, they're small, medium, large, 2x, whatever. We'll just say, or rounded is the default. So rounded gives a border radius of 0.25 rems. Right? And then I can even go in here and say shadow. So now they're all going to have a little shadow. Maybe I want that shadow to be a little bit bigger, and I'm going to go shadow LG for shadow large. We've got a nice little shadow there. Maybe we want the text to be gray 700, maybe. All right. Okay. Yeah, probably not dark enough. Probably won't be accessible. Let's make it 800. Maybe we want these to be 300. Whatever. Wow, that's a big difference between 300 and 400. Maybe we want this one to be white. So now, okay, watch. So if I get rid of this background, watch. It's basically transparent. So the background above it or below it, I guess, in the kind of the Z index, in the vertical space, or however you want to think about it. So if I want to make that white, I can just say background white. So there's a bunch of these. So what Tailwind gives you, and you can kind of look at all the different things, and it's pretty easy to navigate. You can look at, there's grid, there's so padding. Padding is, gosh, you use so much padding in laying out web pages, etc. But it's like you can see all the different ways, and they give you some examples. You can see like, okay, it's padding top, padding right, padding bottom, padding left. So if you want to add padding, so it's the same thing, right? So back to Figma. Let's go back to our untitled. I should have brought some water up here. Yeah, where do you go? So you go here and you can do like, quarter radius. You can hit things individually. Same with the padding. Yeah, here. You can do it individually, or you can do it all as one. That's what that is. So if I say padding 3, that's going to be padding the same all the way around. If I do padding left 3. It's only going to affect the left side. Pretty straightforward, right? So there's a learning curve. You got to learn kind of the syntax, the language here. Tailwind's not a language. It's a CSS framework. We'll talk about CSS maybe sometime. But, you know, if I go generate, let's do like a paragraph, copy the content in these. Whatever. They're just, you know, the point is, okay, now look, totally broke, right? Totally broke. Now, there's reasons why, and this is what can be frustrating when you're learning a new technology, you're learning a new tool, right? The reason why it broke is because I've got a height on there. I've got a height. So if I'm saying, hey, make that this height, and I've got more content than that height allows, it's going to break. But now I don't really need that height. I was just doing that for kind of design, just so you can kind of see the box or the frame, or you know how it was working. Now it's, you know, the web it's like you get all this out of the box. So it's like that width 1/2. That's still saying, hey, look, only take half. And then the content's going to flow accordingly. Now, and I guess this is just more of a demo because you're probably gonna forget most of this. But so what I can do is I can say, look, you know, maybe when the screen is large, width, or actually, let's do this. Maybe when it's large, we want a width of 1/2. Otherwise, we want a width of full. Actually, we don't even need to say width full. So this little prefix here, this LG colon, that says only do this when the screen size is large. Right now it's large because my monitor is big. I should make this bigger for you guys so you can see it. It's probably been a waste of your time. But see how it's like, okay, it's a 1/2 now. Now it's full. So, and that's nice. That's a nice little touch there, code pen. So see, so it's like so I'm at 800 and some pixels. So once I get, dang, I need some water. I gotta end this pretty soon because I gotta do some other stuff. See how it kind of jumps there? That's, you know, that's responsive design. You've probably heard that. It's a breakpoint. Okay. I don't know. The point is, this stuff, there's a little bit of a learning curve. If you get stuck, you can ask the old Chat GPT, ask it questions. And you can even, you know, copy and paste code like, hey, why is this? You could select this whole thing and be like, hey, why is this doing this? And it'll help you figure it out. But it's not that hard. It's not that hard. There's a lot more to it. This was just I'm just kind of scratching the surface. It's something I think about a lot. I did a terrible job here explaining everything, but, you know, streaming live is tough. I'm thinking right off the cuff. But you know what? It's fun. It's 2024. Let's learn something new. Let's learn something new together. If you got anything out of this, let me know in the comments. Like, hey, that was trash, or good job, welcome back. I don't know. I think that's it for me today. I'll be back soon. I don't know. I don't know if the streaming is going to work. Maybe I'll make more edited videos and just post those. Who knows? Anyway, I hope you're having a good new year. Thanks for watching, and we will see you